right, give me a minute. Alrighty. So hello everyone, my name is Taylor Gurian. I work for Newell Brands, which is the parent company for Sharpie. So I work on the sales side of things, but I do a lot of various campaigns, product launches. We just launched a bunch of cool new products, Sharpie Metallic Chisel. We launched Sharpie Chalk, which is one of the products that we're using today. So I'm really excited to be here with you guys today. Before I say anything else, I want to make sure that everyone has the supplies that they need for today's class. So you'll have just a black ceramic pot. It comes with the base of the pot as well. And then a pack of Sharpie chalk markers and a pack of Sharpie paint markers. So the first thing I'd like you guys to know about both Sharpie chalk and Sharpie paint markers is that to get the ink flowing, we actually have to prime the markers. So as everyone's trickling in and joining, just follow along with me here. If you have not opened up your pack yet of Sharpie chalk or Sharpie paint markers, do so now, just to get the markers primed up before we start painting on our vases. So how you prime the marker is take off any sort of plastic wrapping that's around the marker in front of you. What you want to do is shake the marker for about 10 seconds with the cap on, and you'll hear a little like metal ball inside. That's activating the ink inside of the marker. So that little ball is actually mixing up the paint together inside the marker. So once you shake for about 10 seconds, you're going to want to remove the cap, and then on a scrap piece of paper or whatever you have in front of you, pump the marker with the nib down. So you can see on the top camera here. So just start pumping the marker like I am so, maybe about 5 or 6 times, and then put the cap back on and then do the same thing again. Repeat this whole process until the ink starts flowing through the marker. I would recommend starting with your white Sharpie chalk to start priming, because we'll use that first for the lettering portion of this. And then we will go on to probably the green and the yellow. So for the time being, start priming your white, green, and your yellow Sharpie chalk markers. Anyone have any questions there on how to prime your markers?
We haven't seen any questions come through yet, but I think we're good. Okay, great.
So hopefully that should take maybe no more than 5 minutes. But just to intro, while you guys are priming your markers, just to introduce a little bit more about me and about the class we're doing today. So a few of my hobbies include cooking, painting. I love plants, just any sort of DIY projects in general. So that kind of gave me the inspiration on what we are creating today. So we are creating your own herb garden, and no plants included. You can get the plants after the class. But creating your own herb garden and decorating it with different types of herbs that you want to plant inside them. So my favorites are oregano, rosemary, basil, and thyme. Because like I said, I love cooking. So those are just 4 of my favorite herbs that I use when I'm in the kitchen. So we will be hand lettering those different herbs onto the pot, and then just including some fun little flowery decorations on the side. So that is what we'll be doing today. So hopefully you have your pot with you, your Sharpie chalk markers, your Sharpie paint markers. So the techniques we'll be working on today is just kind of an introductory lesson into some hand lettering. And don't be overwhelmed. I know it can kind of be intimidating at first, but how I'm going to show you how to do it. It should be very simple and kind of breaking it down to the core of how to actually create different, cursive and calligraphy letters like this. And then other than that, we'll just have fun on creating some different flowers and decorating the pot even further. So before I go ahead and get started even further, I want to let you guys know that there are other awesome Sharpie classes that will be in the next few weeks. So the first one on September 28th, there'll be a Sharpie and Prismacolor hand lettering class. So they'll go a lot more in depth than I am today. and actually hand lettering on paper using both Sharpie and our Prismacolor markers. Cannot miss that one. That'll be phenomenal. And then on October 4th, we'll have a Sharpie tie-dye coaster class with our very own Jonathan, who you've may or may not seen before if you've taken a few other Make It With Michael's classes. He's awesome. Definitely cannot miss that one as well. So definitely get excited about today's class and then tune in to those 2 other classes in the next few weeks for some more Make It With Michael's and Sharpie. And with that being said, this class is being recorded. So if you miss any steps or you want to go back and show a friend how to do this, I would highly recommend watching that recorded version. It'll be on michaels.com/classes in 24 hours. So definitely check that out. And throughout the whole class, if there's any questions, just please write in the chat. And our lovely moderator, Alex, will relay those messages to me. So with that being said, I will go ahead and get started. So like I mentioned earlier, the 4 herbs that we're gonna kind of decorate this pot with are thyme, basil, oregano, and rosemary. I am no herb expert, but just a few things to know. These 4 herbs, if you decide to go back and actually plant them inside this pot, they can all be grown together, so no issues there. And they're commonly planted together. They are going to be indoor plants, and they'll need about sun to full sun. So maybe put it on a windowsill or wherever you get a lot of light inside your house or apartment. That's just my recommendation there. And most of these herbs are perennials. So if you don't know what a perennial is, that just means that they regrow every spring. So once you plant them once, they'll regrow back every spring if you take care of them. So yeah, that is my minor knowledge on herbs. And with that, we'll get started. So get your pot in front of you. I'm just gonna put the base of the pot to the side because we'll utilize that later. So what we're gonna do first is I'll show you on the example. So there's 2 parts to the pot. There's kind of this upper lip, which is about 1/3 of it. And then there's about this 2/3 bottom half of it right under that lip. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with the words themselves. We're gonna put 2 of them on the top, like so, and then 2 of them on this like bottom portion as well. So we'll start with this bottom portion, and we will start with basil since it's the shortest word of the bunch. So I will keep this here for you guys to see on the front side if you want to switch back to that camera. But for now we will go ahead and get started with writing out basil. So to help you guys out a little bit, what I've done is I've actually gone through and kind of marked step by step what I'm going to be doing as a process for actually creating the hand lettering for each one of the words. So how I kind of breaking down hand lettering in general, number 1, it's okay if it's not perfect. Every single time, and you can even see here, every time I'm drawing it out, freehanding it, they're gonna look a little bit different. So it's okay if it's not perfect. That's kind of the fun in hand lettering. You get to be a little creative with it. And so at the top, I'll have a demonstration for each one of the words. But at the top, this is kind of what the final product will want to look like. The first step here, what I like to explain it as, is kind of starting with the core of each letter within each word. So keeping apart each letter, not connecting them at first. And then the second step, kind of how I like to explain this, is making different parts of the letters kind of in a block formation to make it a little bit thicker. So what the green lines are showing here is kind of where you're going to want to draw another line and then again fill in that portion. So you can kind of see the difference between the second. I'm going to bring this up a little bit more. You can kind of see the difference between the second and the third. So the green line is just outlining where you're going to want to start filling in some of that extra bolded part for that letter. And then finally, the third step is just connecting every single letter to kind of create a cursive word. So if that makes sense, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Just making sure my marker is primed. It is good to go. So what you're gonna do is just pick any part of that second portion, like I mentioned. I'd say eye it out, probably start somewhere in the middle. And we're gonna start with the B. So what you're gonna do with your Sharpie chalk marker, you're gonna use the white Sharpie chalk. Hopefully it's already primed. What you're gonna do is, number one, I'm a visual learner for sure. So definitely watch as I'm creating each one of these strokes. And if you get lost and want me to stop, you know, feel free to ask any questions or just refer back to this kind of demo that I have on the right-hand side here if you get confused. So I'm gonna start with, yeah.
Really quickly before you get started, sorry, do you mind showing again how you prime the markers to get them started?
Sure. So what you're gonna wanna do with each one of your markers, and like I said, definitely start with your Sharpie chalk white because that's what we'll use first. So what you're gonna do is shake the marker for about 10 seconds with the cap on. And then from there, after about 10 seconds, you're gonna hear that little, I don't know if you can hear it on my camera, but you're gonna hear a little ball kind of shaking inside that marker. And then what you're going to do after you shake it for about 10 seconds is you're going to kind of pump the tip, press it down onto your piece of paper, maybe about 5 or 6 times, and holding down that nib for maybe about 1 to 2 seconds. And then from there, once you've kind of pumped the nib 5 or 6 times, put the cap back on and repeat that whole process. Just shake again for 10 seconds, start pumping the nib, and how you know you're done priming the marker is once you see the ink begin to flow through the marker and you see it actually come on your piece of paper. So it might be harder to tell actually with the Sharpie chalk if the ink is flowing through because it's the same color as the nib, but just start testing out to see if the ink is flowing. And once you've primed it, you don't need to prime it a second time. It'll always be primed. We good to go? Thumbs up? Let's see a thumbs up.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful. All righty, so we'll go ahead and get started. So I'm gonna start with the B for basil. So how I have it laid out here on this first step is you're gonna start with the upper kind of curve of the B. So what I'm gonna do is kind of create an oval-like shape, bring it down, and then make the bottom lip of the B like so. So it's kind of look like a disconnected 8. So that's the B. And then before you start connecting any other letter, just start with the A and make it separate from the B. So for this one, it's fairly simple. You're just want to create a normal cursive A, but you're going to want to disconnect the kind of longer line of the A on the right side from the circular part of the A. So I will do that here. So I'll kind of keep that line a little bit shorter than I'd usually have it. And making fairly pretty, you know, standard cursive A there. The S is gonna be a little wonky. It's gonna essentially look like an S, but a lot longer and a little bit obtuse. So I'll start with the top of it and kind of make that long, kind of weird looking S. And then the I will be pretty much a standard cursive I. So you're gonna start with a straight line, kind of bring it up at the bottom of the lip, and really overemphasize the dot of the I, your big circle. And then with the L, it'll kind of be the same technique as how you did with the start of the B. So you're gonna create a kind of oval shape there, line down, and then bring that lip out again. So one of the most basic things with hand lettering is that you're always gonna wanna, with an A or an I or an L or letters that look similar like to that with a line coming at the bottom, you're gonna wanna kind of bring that line out a little bit to give it that cheeky look. So I'll pause there for a second so you guys can catch up if you haven't already. I have a fun fact while I'm waiting. So by the end of 2002, over 200 million Sharpie markers had been produced. So that's actually enough for approximately 2 Sharpie markers for every single household in America, which is pretty amazing. pretty cool company that I work for. Definitely a household name, global product. Everyone knows what Sharpie is, so I love that fun fact. I think that's awesome. So moving on to the second step here. This is the step where you're going to want to follow those green lines. So what the blue line on the second step is showing you here is just exactly mimicking what you've already done. And the green line is going to show what you're adding onto it now. So starting with the B, what I'm going to want to do is kind of create a second line, similar to how I did here with that green, to really overemphasize that left side of the B. And then from there, you just color in between both of those lines. Moving on to the A, similar things. You're going to want to create that second line there, color that bad boy in. And then with the A, on the right side of it, you're going to kind of want to make a triangle at the top of the A there. And then from there, kind of bring it down into the bottom of the A where the lip is to a point. From there, working on the S, you're just going to want to create kind of a second S on top of it so it looks like it's overlapping almost. And where that empty space is, just fill it in with your marker. So what you're doing here is really emphasizing different parts of the letter to really add that kind of hand lettering, thick and thin line look to it. With the I, you're going to kind of create that triangle shape and bringing it down to the point of the bottom of the I like that. And then from there, similar technique with how we did with the B, but you're going to want to make a fatter line connecting the top and the bottom lines there. And so I'll just kind of fill that in. So what's awesome about using Sharpie chalk markers on this is this is actually a wet erase marker. So what that means is on chalkboard and a bunch of other surfaces, if you take a wet cloth and actually go over the lettering, you can start from brand new. So let's say you make a little mistake, you got worried about it, you can actually erase it with a wet cloth. So if you make a mistake now or later, you decide you want to, pot different herbs and not use basil, then you can erase it from there. And this is actually a new marker that just launched about a few months ago, and I love using it. So from there, the final step is what we're going to do is follow along with these red lines here. So you're going to take your Sharpie chalk marker and then just start following along with kind of where I have those red lines, and you're going to connect each one of the letters to actually make a cursive word. So I'm going to start at that bottom of the B and connect a line up to the top of the A. I'm going to start at the bottom of the A, connect a line probably about the middle of the S. With the S, I'm actually going to start at the very bottom, and I'm going to bring it around and loop it up to the top of the I like that. And then with the I, connect it kind of to the middle of the L there. So this is what your final product will look like for basil specifically. Any questions there? All right.
Nothing yet. I think people are just enjoying decorating their pots.
Great. We love herbs. Love herbs. So I'm so curious, where is everyone from? Please write in the chat where you're from, and Alex, our lovely moderator, will relay the message back to me. I'd love to see how global or national this class is.
We have Las Vegas, Washington, North Carolina, a few people from North Carolina, a lot of people from California, Tennessee, Mexico.
Wow.
Chicago. We have people from all over.
Wow. I'm seeing the chat come in. You guys are from all over the place. I'm originally actually from Chicago, from the north suburbs, but I'm currently in Atlanta, Georgia, which is where Sharpie's headquarters are. So I moved down here to a little bit of warmer weather, so I escaped the freezing cold winters in Chicago, as some of you may know. Well, that's awesome. Definitely glad to have everyone from all over the place here today. So what we're going to do, so now that everyone has one herb on their pot, So we're gonna kind of eye where the center of the other side of the pot is. So what I like to do is with the S, so this is just me kind of tagging to see where I should start the next letter, the next word, which is gonna be rosemary. So starting with the S, I'm gonna kind of put my finger at the very top. So this is on the other end where I want the center to be. So I'm gonna put my finger there. I'm gonna wrap it around, and right about there is gonna be my center spot for where I wanna start my next word. And again, this doesn't have to be perfect, but just to kind of get a good idea and kind of good layout from the center of the basil onto the next word over here, I'll probably kind of create that word right here, right in that center. So,
and hey, Taylor, we had a question come through. Somebody asked if Sharpie has different lettering styles. I think you mentioned a class coming up soon where they could learn hand lettering.
Exactly. So we can hand letter with a bunch of different products. I love to use Sharpie or Prismacolor for any sort of hand lettering. And yes, Alex is right. We have a hand lettering class coming up in about a week or so, and they're going to go a little bit more into the techniques and kind of which different markers you can use. There's a huge variety of products that Sharpie and Prismacolor offer that will help you perfect your hand lettering. So definitely, I'd recommend if you enjoy this hand lettering today, this can kind of be your introduction class, but I highly recommend hopping on that second hand lettering program where they'll go into more detail. I think it's next week.
Great, thank you.
So we'll go ahead and get started with the rosemary. So similar technique. We're going to start with kind of the core of each letter. We're going to go on to what areas we want to fill in to be a little bit bolder on the second part. And then on the third, going to connect with those, red lines that I have listed out, connect each letter to make that cursive word, make that full hand lettering word. So I'm going to start with the R. What you're going to do here is it's going to look similar to a cursive R, but you're going to overemphasize that loop on the top left-hand side of your lowercase r. So what you're going to do is in the middle of right under that lip, kind of that middle section where my fingers are right here, I'm going to start about there like we did with the basil. And I'm going to create this short, kind of overemphasized loop there, bring it down. And like I said, really create, instead of these static lines or straight lines, create that loop at the end to kind of give it that cheeky look like I did there. So what you're going to want to do with the O is actually start in the middle of the O. And what you're going to want to do is bring that down, up, overemphasize the top of it, go over your starting line, and then bring it through just like so. So that's what the O is going to look like. It's a little cheeky, a little fun. We've already done an S before, so we have some experience with that. So it's going to be the oblong S shape, kind of how I demoed earlier. With the E, it's going to look just like a normal cursive E, maybe a little bit tilted. So that one's fairly simple. Oh, I'm leading up onto that basil one. That's okay. With the M, what you want to do here is kind of start at the top and go down. And instead of just drawing a straight line and making the kind of the loops of the M at the top, you're going to want to bring that straight line down, then make the loops of the M and bring it down like so. So my centering wasn't very on point, but I'll try to squeeze the rest of the letter before I hit the basil word. But again, hand lettering is not perfect. This is just for fun. It's just for crafting. It's just for your house. Everyone will love it regardless. So the A is going to be similar to how we did the A for the basil. So you're going to start at the top of that circle. Do not connect that line with the bottom of that circle there. Make a little loop. The R is going to be the same as kind of how we started it in the beginning of the rosemary word. So overemphasized R, bring it down. And then before I start hitting the B of basil, I'm going to try to draw my Y. And I'm going to overemphasize that Y at the bottom. So they're kind of, you know, coming together, but this gives us more room to create some more flowers in between the two letters on this side. So the second part, to start filling in each one of your letters, what you're going to do is follow along with me on the green lines that I have here. So I'm going to want to start at the loop of that R, and I'm going to make a second line here to kind of really show me where I'm going to want to overemphasize and bold in that part of the letter. So mine's going to look a little bit like that. The O, you're going to want to take that point on where you started drawing that O, so this point right here, and create a little triangle to bring it down into the bottom part of the O, just like so. And with the top of it, you're going to want to create this kind of oval or half oval shape at the very top, so you're going to fill it in from there. The S is going to be similar to how we did it before, so you're going to kind of create like a second S. And then fill it in. The E, you're just going to want to take the outside of the E and make that half circle there. Fill it in. With the M, you're going to want to do that kind of triangle technique that I keep mentioning, where you draw, kind of create a mini triangle at the top and then bring that triangle down so it kind of makes an acute triangle. Same thing with these two M's. You're going to fill those guys in. So really all you're doing here is just filling in different parts of the letter to make it a little bit bolder. So it really doesn't matter where you do it, honestly. But the way that I'm doing is just kind of gives a good balance to the letter. So it's not either overly bolded or under bolded. And this kind of allows for that really flow and pretty look to that hand lettering word that you're making. So with the R, we did an R already, so just kind of filling in that a little bit more. And then with the Y, that triangle technique I keep mentioning. And then with the outside of the Y and that loop at the bottom, just kind of making that like so. And then finally, connecting all of them with that red line that you can see here. So connecting the bottom of the R to the middle of the O, connecting the O to the top of the S. We're going to loop that S back around into the E, the bottom of the E to the top of the M over to the A up to the R, and then finally the R to the Y. So this is what your rosemary word should look like. Again, they're going to look different every single time, but this is kind of the basis of the technique I like to do. So a little squished over here from the Y to the B, but that's okay. We'll have a lot more room over here to draw some flowers. So I'll pause there before we move on to the next word. Any questions?
We didn't have a question on the process, but we did have somebody ask what your favorite color was.
Ooh, that's a great question. My favorite color in general is pink, but my favorite color of the bunch of colors I have in front of me would definitely have to be this Sharpie chalk green. You can kind of tell on here, it has an awesome neon vibrancy to it, which I love. I love how much it stands out on the darker surface. So that is my favorite color of the bunch here. But in real life, I love a light pink color. And quick question for the group. Does anyone know how many colors of Sharpie markers there are? And I'm just talking about Sharpie fine tip permanent markers. So write in the chat how many colors you think we offer of our Sharpie fine.
Okay, we're getting a lot of guesses. We have 56, 102, 55, 75, 65, 87, 50, 89, 72, 500. Somebody guessed 500.
Wow. Shooting for the stars. Well, everyone, you know, is actually fairly close. It's between 40 and 60. It is actually 51 total unique colors that we offer of the Sharpie Fine. And that number is counting. So we're always creating new colors. And we're always trying to kind of create new packs and colors that will really please how people are crafting and what people use on a daily basis. So great guesses, everyone. 500, you know, maybe one day we'll get to 500 Sharpie Fine colors, but for right now, we're at 51. All right, so now that we have 2 of our herbs already drawn out on here, we're gonna move on to the last 2, and then from there, we're gonna decorate it with some flowers. So we just did rosemary, so I'm gonna move on to oregano. And I'm actually going to draw these words on this top, like upper portion of the pot. And so I'm gonna probably draw the first one in between the last letter of basil and the first letter of rosemary. And then from there, kind of do the other one on the middle part of the other side. Again, you can do whatever you want, but I kind of like the symmetry of having them on the center part on both ends. So starting with the O of oregano, so we've done a few O's before. These ones are a little weird, but since you have some experience already, you should know. So we're gonna start with the middle of the O on the left-hand side, kind of loop it up, overemphasize the outside of the O, and draw it just like so. With the R, same thing, you've already done one of these, so you have some experience. You're gonna wanna overemphasize the loop of the top side of the R, and then bring it down. And what I like to do actually is kind of bring some of that marker down below that lip, just to give it a little bit more fun to it. And that kind of adds an extra layer of kind of the visuals of how you're seeing it. With the O of oregano, you're gonna wanna create just a simple cursive E. Sorry, the E of oregano, my bad. Simple cursive E. The G is gonna look fairly similar to a cursive G, but how we did this with the A as well is you're gonna disconnect that bottom portion of the G from that kind of the longer side of the letter that brings it down here. So similar to the A and the G, disconnecting that kind of semicircle from that line there. So I'm gonna start with the semicircle. So I'm gonna bring it up, kind of stop it a little short. And then the bottom part of the G, again, I like to bring it down a little bit. Bring it back up, like so. Again, does not have to be perfect. Mine certainly are not. We're all learning here. So with the A, similar technique with the G that you just did. So a little semicircle, and then bring that straight line down into a little kind of curve at the end. With the N, this is gonna be kind of one smooth motion, and it's just kind of gonna look like a S that's sideways. That's my best way to explain that. So what you wanna do is start at the top part of the N and just kind of make a sideways S, just like so. And then the O, similar to the first letter in oregano, starting on the left-hand side on the middle portion of the O, overemphasizing that top left portion. So now that we have that first step done with just the core letter itself, we're gonna start filling in those bolded portions. So with that triangle technique, filling in the starting point of that O, and then from there, kind of creating a semicircle on the top of it, just like so. With the R, you're gonna wanna fill in a little bit of that loop and bring it out, same triangle technique that I keep mentioning, like so. With the E, you're going to want to extend the left side of the E out a little bit. With the G, same thing as the E there, extend it out. And then that triangle technique where you just take the top of that G, make a straight line out, and then make a kind of a long triangle, and then fill it in from there. That's kind of one of my secret tricks to hand lettering, is just creating triangles across a lot of the different parts of the letters. And then from there, filling in the A like how you did with the G, triangle technique at the top, triangle technique at the top of the N, and then outlining the outside of the N. And then same thing with the O as you did at the first letter. And then now you have your more bubbly hand lettering letters for oregano. And then simple part here, just start connecting all the dots. So connect the O to the R to about the baseline of the E, the end of the E to the middle of the G, the loop of the G to the middle of the A, the bottom of the A to the top of the N. And then you're gonna wanna kind of bring that N out to connect to that O. So that is oregano, that rhymed. So before I move on, I have a second trivia question. Does anyone know what year Sharpie was launched? The first Sharpie marker, the Sharpie permanent marker that was ever introduced into the market. What year was that introduced?
All right, we are getting some answers starting to come in. We have 1956, 1972, 1999, a lot in the 1950s and 1960s. We have a 1927 and 1998.
Well, a lot of you guys are super close. Maybe you already know these questions before. Maybe you previously worked for Sharpie, who knows? But the year that Sharpie was launched was 1964. So great year. That was the year my mom was born, if anyone was wondering. And that was the year that Sharpie was launched and became the world's first pen style permanent marker. And then from there, we have completely, reinvented Sharpie and kind of turned it into Sharpie chalk, Sharpie paint. So we've really come out with a lot of cool products ever since that first launch in 1964. And we're always changing, always coming out with cool new products. So second question, when did the Sharpie Ultra Fine marker first come out? So we know the Sharpie Fine came out in 1964, but when did the Sharpie Ultra Fine marker come out? Anyone know?
We have 1982, 1978, 1994. We had somebody let us know that they were older than a Sharpie, which is cool. We have 1979, 1994. So a little later, 80s, yeah, 90s.
You guys are spot on. It's about 20 years actually after we first launched the Sharpie Fine. So the Sharpie Ultra Fine marker came out in 1989. So exactly 25 years after the launch of the first Sharpie marker. So a lot was going on in those 25 years trying to figure out how to reinvent what everyone known and loved as the Sharpie Fine marker. Alrighty, so we should have 3 herbs already, oops, my bad. 3 markers already, 3 herbs already written out on your pot. And so we're gonna move on to the last and final herb that we're gonna draw on here. So the last one is going to be thyme. And then from there, once we have all of our words on there, we're gonna start decorating it with some flowers, some grass, and just make it really cute and fun and coloring. And that's when we're introduce a lot of the other colors. So similar to how I kind of tried to measure out where to start the rosemary based on the basil, I'll do the same thing here. So see where oregano, the middle of oregano, so I'm probably looking at that G. Probably want the middle of the thyme to be about here. So I'll probably start maybe around here just to get that time as centered as I possibly can. This is completely eyeing it, so no one needs to get out a ruler or anything to start measuring this out. So starting with the T of thyme, this one's actually fairly simple. So it's going to look like a simple lowercase t. We're gonna have that little loop on the end. Pretty much what a cursive T would look like if you are doing simple cursive. So I'm gonna start with that T, the loop at the end, and really overemphasize the line of the T. From there, I'm gonna make an H. So the H is gonna start similar to how the B started. And then instead of connecting kind of this like horseshoe look to the stem of the H, we're gonna disconnect that and kind of make this like oval semicircle that is kind of disconnected from the stem of the H. So that will definitely give a kind of fun, cheeky look to it. So from there, once you've started with that H, I'm going to really overemphasize that loop there and kind of bring it down to add that extra fun pizzazz to the H. So the Y, what you're going to do here is really overemphasize, like I like to call like left aligning the left side of the H. I'm sorry, the left side of the Y. So see how the dip is a lot lower than it is on this right side. That's gonna kind of how I'm gonna create that, the U shape for the Y, and really overemphasizing it on the left-hand side. So like I said, overemphasizing it so it's kind of an oblong shaped U, and then bringing down the Y. I'm gonna kind of loop it into the B so that all the letters are interacting. So you have thyme, you have THY for thyme. And then from there, the M, we've already done one of these before, but you're gonna kind of start at the top and then bring your marker down where it's now looping into those two parts of the humps of the M. So it's gonna kind of look like a U connected to an M. And then the E will just look like a simple cursive E, just like so. So from there, once you have kind of those core letters of the thyme, then what you're gonna wanna do is fill in the block part of the letters. So for the T here, I like to kind of create that triangle shape again, but instead of going right with the triangle, you're going left. So create a mini long triangle there, fill it in. With the H, similar technique to how we did with the B, but you're gonna overemphasize that line there and make kind of that semicircle. And then similar thing here. So just two lines, you're drawing in on those two lines. And with the Y, triangle technique to get those lines a little bit thicker. Just filling that guy in. And with the Y, so the Y is done. So now moving on to the M, triangle technique for that first stem. And then just with the humps here, just kind of make them a little bit bolder. Nothing too crazy. And then with the E, overemphasizing kind of that left side of it. So now that you have the bolded letters of thyme, connect them with like I have here with those red lines. So you're gonna connect all the letters together. So T is gonna kind of go into the middle of the H. The H is gonna connect to the very top of the Y. The Y is gonna connect to the middle of the M, and the bottom of the M is gonna connect to the middle of the E. So that is...
Taylor, we have a quick question. Would
Sure.
you mind also, whenever you get a chance, just showing the sheet for rosemary again?
Oh, sure. I'll try
Thank you
to
so much.
fit both. And yeah, if anyone gets lost or you're still doing basil, which is totally fine if this is your first time hand lettering, I definitely recommend going back and watching this after the class. So it'll be uploaded in about 24 hours. Here, there we go. So you guys can see both. So it'll be uploaded in about 24 hours. So you'll be able to rewatch it then and kind of teach yourself these hand lettering techniques after the class. So before I move on, are there any other questions with the lettering themselves? Did everyone finish all 4 letters or all 4 words? Hold up your pot if you did. I want to see. Show it off. Just like so. Beautiful. They look so lovely. So before I move on to the flowery portion of all this, and this is kind of less technique, more just having fun with creating different flowers and different grass and whatnot on the pot. I have one more fun fact for you guys. Where is the official home of Sharpie? I know I said that the headquarters are in Atlanta, but where is Sharpie actually made, actually manufactured? Does anyone know? Write in the chat and Alex will let us know.
We have New York, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Wisconsin, Ohio. That's all the guesses we have now.
Ooh.
North Carolina, another Tennessee.
I saw someone say Tennessee. Whoever said Tennessee, you are spot on. It is in Shelbyville, Tennessee. That is where our manufacturing plant is for creating our plethora of Sharpies. So fun fact with that, on Sharpie's 40th anniversary, the town was actually nicknamed Sharpieville, USA for that one day when Sharpie celebrated its 40th birthday. So whoever guessed Tennessee, you're spot on. If anyone's been to Shelbyville, raise your hand. I never have, but probably seems like a wonderful place to be. So I'll keep this out. I know someone said they're still working on rosemary, so I'll just kind of put that to the side so you can look at it as I start creating the flowers on our pot.
And so we had someone asked if you could also show basil. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Happily. Where did it go? I'm losing my sheets. There we go. Okay, so I'll kind of keep these to the side of the screen. Just like so. Alrighty. Okay. So we're gonna do the easiest part first for decorating the flowers and grass on our pot. Is the base part of the pot. So how I have here on my demo. So what I did was I actually put a lot of the grass on the bottom in addition to how I had it on the pot itself, just because I thought it looked really cute when it kind of gave some depth of actually the flowers sitting in the bed of grass. So we'll start there. Very, very simple. And hopefully you guys have your green. You can use both. Or you can just use one of your Sharpie paint green, and then I have a Sharpie chalk green. I'll just use my Sharpie chalk for now, since it is my favorite Sharpie chalk color. So hopefully you guys have this primed. And what you're gonna do is literally just start creating a bunch of lines, like I am so. It's kind of not really reaching the top of the bottom of the space, but really starting kind of about 2/3, maybe about 1/3 down, and then bringing that line all the way to the bottom, like so. So I'll show you guys. So kind of leaving a little bit of room on the top, but other than that, super simple. Just kind of start making those lines on the bottom of the pot and make them.
Taylor, I did just want to let you know and everybody else know we have about 10 minutes left. So of our scheduled time. So if anybody has any questions that you'd like Taylor to answer, just let us know and we're happy to ask her.
Great. Thanks, Alex. So we will continue just filling this in. This should take about a minute. And we'll have 10 minutes is a good amount of time to decorate the pot with some flowers. And like I said, this is more kind of the do it yourself, make it really your own part. So if you want to continue kind of painting it after the class, I highly recommend it. It's probably what I'll do too. And so super simple, just drew a bunch of green lines and I'm gonna let that sit and dry on the side. And then we're actually gonna go back to our pot And what I'm gonna do now is just search for any blank spots on the pot. So we have this huge blank spot here. We have a blank spot up here. And I think that's the same one I mentioned earlier. Another one up here. So here's where I'm gonna just start filling in some flowers. And what I'm gonna demo first is these little daisies that I drew over here. I thought these were super cute. And what you're really gonna do here, it's fairly simple. Just draw different sized, different length green lines with your Sharpie chalk marker. And I'll demo this in a second. With the petals coming out like so. Make them fairly small petals. And then with the daisy itself, you're just gonna wanna take your white Sharpie chalk marker and kind of draw like a little star, or just start in the middle and just draw maybe 5 or 6 lines to kind of get that daisy look. They're fairly small flowers, but I just thought they looked really cute with the rest of our decorations. So hopefully I'll do it right here so you guys can also look at the basil and rosemary. So I'm gonna take this huge open space here as my opportunity to start drawing in these daisies. So I'm gonna draw maybe about 5 different length lines, like so. And then, super simple, and then from there, I'm just gonna draw little petals. So for my petals, I'm really just making kind of an oval shape. And then from there, filling in that oval shape on different areas of each one of the stems of the flower. So you can do 2 petals, you can do 3, 4, whatever your heart desires. So that's what mine looks like. And I'm gonna grab my white Sharpie chalk again. Or if you don't want to do white, you can do blue, you can do pink, you can do literally any color. But I like the simplicity of the white. So from there, just like I said, kind of drawing a star like that, where I'm just gonna start in the middle and make really short white lines that will center it to the green stem that I just drew. So just like so. I'm gonna do that for the rest of the stems. And then, that one's a little wacky, but no flower is the same. And then from there, I'm actually gonna let that sit for a second just before I create the center part of that flower. I'm gonna use the yellow Sharpie chalk to create the center part, but I'm gonna let that dry for a hot minute. So while we let that white part dry, I'm gonna move on to the middle of the oregano and the middle of the thyme at the top here. And so what I'm gonna demo is just this half, I like this one a little bit better. This half flower here. Really simple, but I kind of liked this little technique that I used to create the outline of it. So I'll show you how to do that. I'm gonna prime my marker a little bit, make sure the ink is flowing. And then what we're gonna wanna do here is take your orange Sharpie paint marker or your yellow, really doesn't matter, but for the sake of right now, I'm gonna use my orange. And I'm gonna just draw a half semicircle at the very top of the potter. I'm gonna fill that bad boy in. Just like so. Kind of looks like a little sun peeking out from the top. All right, and then I'm gonna grab my pink, since this is my favorite marker. And I'm just going to create the petals of the flower. So that's how I'm gonna draw them at first, and I'm gonna fill them in after. So they're gonna kind of be these like oval shaped petals that are not going to completely be shown, because a lot of them are going to be connected to that stem. I'm sorry, to that center part of the flower. So just like so. And then from there, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to fill it in with a different color. So I'm going to actually fill it in with the white. And I'm gonna wanna fill it in so you can actually still see the outside of the pink. So you can see that it's outlined by pink, but the flower itself is white. So I'm gonna fill it in that way. And again, feel free to use literally any color that you'd want. I just decided to use white, pink, and orange for this. Alrighty. And then what I'm gonna do next, I'm gonna take my white, and I'm just gonna draw some little dots in that flower. And I'm gonna take my pink, I'm gonna do the same thing in that white. I'm gonna draw some little pink dots. They're very subtle, but I think it adds a nice little kind of texture to that flower. And so that's what my flower is gonna look like on top. And so I'm letting that dry. Let's hop back to our cute little daisies on this side. And I'm gonna fill in the center part of each one of the daisies with a little bit of yellow. And I love the Sharpie yellow, Sharpie chalk yellow. It has such a nice vibrancy to it. And so I think for now, this is what I'm going to call my final project, my finished product. And what I love is once you put that base back in to the base portion of the pot, it just looks like there's a little grass growing on the outside of it. And this is pretty much it. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this class. I certainly did. This is an awesome way to spend my Monday. I highly encourage everyone to post your final product on social media. Post it on your social media, hashtag Make It With Michaels. Our social team is gonna be all over it. And you actually have the opportunity to become Insta famous on our Sharpie Instagram page if you post. So everyone hold up your final product if it's dry. I'd love to see it. And hopefully what I'm gonna do after this class is run to the plant store and actually get some herbs to put in here to start growing my own herbs to cook with. So I hope everyone enjoyed this class, and I hope everyone has an awesome week and has fun potting their newly painted planter. Thanks, everyone.